G-tube was probably one of the hardest decisions we have had to make for him.
It was a really hard decision to do.
Oh my gosh.
It just breaks your heart. So this shows you what the tube looked like. Is a special little boy with a message to share. Hello MTM fam. I am very excited for today's video because today is actually a very special day and I'm going to tell you why. Today is the 1-year anniversary of when Jensen got his G-tube, which is the feeding tube that we feed him by every night. And I've been a little bit emotional about it. I was kind of crying last night looking back at photos just because of really what it represents for us. It represents healing and strength. And, you know, at Jensen's last doctor appointment, he was in the 8th percentile for his weight. And I know that his tube is a big reason because that he is gaining weight and growing. And so it's something that I just really appreciate. So Derek and I want to show it to you guys. And then we want to talk a little bit about our tube feeding journey with Jensen. Just kind of remember, because he has been being tube fed for longer than a year. He was being tube fed by an NG tube for 5 months before we got the G-tube, and the G-tube was probably one of the hardest decisions we have had to make for him with regards to surgeries and stuff like that. But I'm so glad that we did it, and he's such a strong, happy little boy, and I know that's part of it. So I'm gonna take you in to where he is, and we're gonna show it to you and kind of just go over how we use it and just talk about our journey to getting the G-tube, just for anybody who would like a little bit more information. So stay tuned. This is going to be a really special video to us and also heartfelt, but also informational, I hope. Okay, Jay is kind of getting tired, so hopefully he isn't too grouchy during the video. But Jensen, hey you, where's your button?
Where's your button?
Show us your button.
Where's your button, Jay?
Where is it? Where's your button? Should we show him? Show us.
Show us your button.
Oh, he's trying to show
Let's
us.
see it.
See, there it is.
Peekaboo.
So there is his button. This is called a mini Mickey button. I don't really know why it's called that. That's just the name. But it goes straight in right here. You can see, if I pull it to the side a little bit, you can see that part. What are you doing? That's the tube part that goes straight down into his stomach, and then it has this part that lifts up and down. When we feed him, we use this part. We take it out right here. We put the extension into this part, and this little blue side right here is for when you take it in and out. You put water and through this little blue side, but otherwise you never use this spot. And we use this spot every day when we feed him. And one funny thing about the tube for Jensen is that he fiddles with it all the time, wouldn't you say?
It's kind of a nervous habit for him. He's just always playing with it.
Yeah. So a lot of the time his button will be undone like this. Like this won't be in because he just always pulls it out. So I'll put it back in and watch. He'll probably pull it out. But it doesn't leak or anything, so it doesn't really matter when it comes undone, but we do try to keep it closed, but it doesn't make that big of a difference. It doesn't bother him. You can see, like, I can touch it, I can spin it around, like, it's just there. It's just there, yeah. It's kind of like, I would describe it maybe as like an ear piercing. So if you had an earring in your ear, you could kind of pull on it and twist it and it wouldn't really bother you. That's how the G-tube is for him. So like I was saying, when we went into his last appointment, he was at the 8th percentile, which is really good. It's the highest he's ever been on the weight chart. So we're really happy that he's there. We're hoping that we can stop using the tube maybe sometime this summer, or if not, sometime within the next 6 months, I would say is probably our goal. All right, so I'm going to show you what we use to feed Jensen and kind of tell you a little bit about it. So this is a syringe. This is a 60 ml syringe. And then this is called the extension. This is where the syringe attaches up here. And this bottom part down here is what actually hooks into his button. And then what we give him through the tube is this Pediasure right here. The Pediasure just has more vitamins and calories than regular milk, so that's why we do the Pediasure. Sometimes we do the 1.5 Pediasure, which means it just has an additional half a calorie compared to the other one, if that makes sense. So it's 1.5 to every 1 calorie of the regular Pediasure. So sometimes we do that, sometimes we do the regular kind. It just kind of depends on what we have in stock at the time. So you just take the syringe, and there's 2 ports right here. This is a med port and this is the feeding port. So I'll just close off the medicine one because we're not giving him that. And then I just stick the syringe into the top one, and it just goes in by twisting. So I'll just twist it right in. And then before I put any milk or anything in it, I'll close off this little clamp so that it just can't keep running through. So that is basically all the tools that we use to feed him. We used to feed him with a pump, and it was a lot more complicated and a lot more frustrating. This is called gravity feeding, how we feed him now. So we basically just pour the milk into the syringe and his body just takes it in. It's kind of feeds in by gravity. So that's kind of the force that pushes it in his belly. And it doesn't go super fast, but it does go a lot faster than the pump, which is really nice. So we switched from the pump because most kids that stay on a pump aren't like as active. Maybe their disabilities are a little bit more strong, are a little bit more severe, or maybe they're older and they don't roll around as much. But I don't know if you've ever seen a toddler or a little baby sleep. They roll all over the place. Like they flip on the bed front to bottom, and then they roll side to side and just sleep all these different ways. And he was getting so tangled in his feeding tube that we were just like, we can't do it anymore, because it was waking him up and it was pulling on it and it was alarming all the time. So that's why we switched to the gravity feeding, and it was really great for him. It works perfectly. So he only gets about 1/3 of his calories through his tube. So he gets majority of his calories by mouth, and then he only gets a little bit through the tube, but it's just is that little extra boost to help kind of catch him up. And we do it at night because then it doesn't affect what he eats during the day, right? So if I gave him this 8 ounces of milk during the day, then he wouldn't want to drink milk or eat food because he'd be full, right? So that's why we like to do it when he's sleeping, because it's like he doesn't even notice, and then it doesn't affect his appetite during the day at all. So we do this feeding at night. We usually do it right before we go to bed. So between like 11:30 and 12 is when he gets this, and it makes a huge difference. When we skip the feeding, he sleeps a lot more restless. So I do think that like keeping him full helps him rest better, which is also good. Okay, so the next thing that I wanted to talk about is actually why Jensen even needs a feeding tube, and it's probably not for the reason that you think. So here he is over here eating a little snack before he goes to bed. Derek's cutting him up some cheese. You know, Jensen has choked on cheese, so we're like really careful about it. But he loves cheese. JJ, is it good?
It's good.
The reason that he actually needs a feeding tube is because he has 2 pretty serious defects. One is called esophageal atresia, or tracheoesophageal fistula. It's a big word. And the other thing is called tracheomalacia. And one thing affected his esophagus, and one thing affected his trachea, which is where you breathe. And so you would probably think that he needs a feeding tube because he has problems with his esophagus, which he does, but that's actually not why he needs a feeding tube. He needs a feeding tube because of the problems with his airway. Because of the defects with his airway, he has to work really hard to breathe. You guys have probably seen the videos of him before. He struggles breathing. He's really loud, you know, he does his honk, as we call it. It's more work for him to breathe than it is for most people because of that defect. And because it's harder for him to breathe, and you have to breathe all the time, he burns more calories all the time than other people. So he can actually eat really well, and he does most things really, really well, but because he's breathing harder than most people, he's burning more calories all the time. And so because of that, it makes it harder for him to gain weight. So that's why, that's really the main reason why he has the feeding tube, is because breathing is hard work for him.
I need to give you some extra calories, huh?
Yes.
Some extra food. Do you like string cheese? Do you like string cheese? Is that yummy? Yeah. Oh, that's so yummy.
So his honking is louder when he does certain things. When he laughs, it's pretty loud. When he's running, it's loud. When he's excited, it's loud. When he is drinking, it's loud. So a lot of times when he's really active are the times when you notice his breathing the most. When he was littler, it was hard for him to breathe basically 24/7, and now I would say it's probably just hard for him to breathe when he does certain activities. But even with that being said, I still feel like he's going to be able to stop using his feeding tube within the next 6 months. But we don't know. That's just me being hopeful and us guessing, because we haven't met with his dietitian for a little while.
Jay, do you want to watch?
Should we watch the video?
Should we watch the video when you got your tube? Should we see it? Cheese! Cheese!
He's almost gonna bonk his head on that light.
He's getting so big. So he had an NG tube, a nasal gastric tube, before he had his G tube in his stomach. So the nasal tube just went up through his nose, and we were hoping that the tube would be a little bit more temporary, and that we wouldn't have to have it obviously for very long. So we left that in for about how long?
5 months.
5 months, the NG tube?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
It was terrible.
Yeah, 5 months of the NG tube was not fun, because he started to get bigger and bigger. The tape would itch his face, he'd get rashes, he'd try to pull it out. He would pull out the tube, and then putting it back in, he would have those blue spells. It was bad. So finally we thought, okay, he's gonna have this tube for longer. So it was a really hard decision to do the G tube, because it requires surgery. It requires anesthesia, which you don't want to do if you don't have to do. But finally we did make that choice, and in the end we're glad that we did, because he would still have that tube going up and in through his nose. So here is a little bit of a clip from the vlog. What day was this?
This was the day that he got his surgery.
Yeah, the day of. Oh my gosh.
It just breaks your heart. So this shows you what the tube looked like, and this was constant with the tape pulling it. That was just all the time.
Congratulations.
Well done.
It's done.
Oh, you're so
It's done.
so bad.
It's done, bud.
It was a really hard choice, but I'm so glad we made it.
Me too. So this is when he went back in the surgery. Mm-hmm. We just got the call that they're basically wrapping it up.
Yeah, we expected it to be about 2.5 hours, but it's been only a little over an hour, and they called us. They just called and said that he's doing really well, that he's done really well when he's been under, and that they're closing now. So that was a good surprise and just a relief. Like, the second you know that they're almost done, it's just like, okay, you can kind of breathe easy. So, I mean, this time, I'm not saying it's easier. It's never easy to send him back, but you know what to expect, I guess. So just knowing what to expect, and just now having them call us earlier than we thought, I'm feeling really good about that we decided to go through with the procedure, I guess.
It's a relief, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been trying to decide if we were gonna do this in the first place for months.
Even this morning, I was just like, are we
Yeah.
making the right choice?
Yeah, she looks at me and asks those very questions. Are we making the right choice? And I mean, it's not like we made it overnight,
Yeah.
you know, but I feel like we did, and
And now it's over.
Now it's over,
done.
yeah.
And there's no going back. Yeah.
yeah, but it'll be so much better for him.
Yeah,
I'm excited. Oh, can't wait to see his squishy little face without the tube and tape.
I know, I'm so glad. Oh my gosh, this day was crazy because he doesn't handle going in and out of anesthesia very well. He gets really disoriented and upset. But this day, you can see this in the video, his body was bright red, like his temperature was reacting weird. And you can see it when you look at his skin in this video. See how here's his face and here's his chest, see that redness, and his legs were that color. Mama's here. Mama's here. So like the first 12 hours were really, really rough. In fact, we were scared that we made the wrong choice to get the surgery because he was so just seeming in a lot of pain and really fussy. But then it was crazy because by the next day, he was acting almost 100% normal, which felt like a miracle, you know? And ever since then, I mean, we've had a few hiccups. Obviously, the pump wasn't fun. He had a couple infections in his tube site, which is normal, but it was a learning curve, but it's been the best thing for him. I mean, when you look at this picture right here, you can see he had to have the NG tube on one side of his face for 2 weeks. So by the time that 2 weeks was over, and this makes me so sad, by the time the 2 weeks were over, then he'd have a sore and we'd have to switch it to the other cheek. So he just always had these sores on his faces, and you wanna watch it? Okay, there you go. And it's just so nice that he never has to have those sores ever, that he never had to have those sores ever again. And the G tube just doesn't bother him at all, like the NG tube did. So it definitely gave him a better quality of life, honestly, to get the G tube. Huh? Do you see the balloon? Remember that balloon was like the only thing that made him happy that day.
Oh, Jay, you have gotten so big. Balloon. He's gotten so big.
Jay was getting tired, so I went and put him to bed, but do you have anything else that you want to share about it?
Just other than how awesome it is that we can even have that.
Yeah.
You know, that he can supplement his diet, because there was a time when he just wasn't eating enough, especially in the beginning.
Yeah.
So it's just amazing that he can even do that.
Yeah, and we noticed a difference, like really drastically actually, when he got the G tube in his development, because even though he had the NG tube before he had the G tube, I feel like it was still really stressful on his body. It was something that was very stressful, like putting the NG tube in, because to do the NG tube, it goes up your nose and then down your throat and into your stomach. And they can feel it. So every time they swallow, they have a little tube in their throat, and it's just uncomfortable, and it makes them more gaggy.
It's just a constant irritation.
Yeah.
Something that's always there.
Yeah, so it's a little bit, it's just uncomfortable. And so I think that was still just putting stress on his body. And as soon as he recovered from the G tube, it was really crazy, because he got the G tube when he was about just barely over 10 months old, like 10 months and 1 day. And he wasn't even rolling over yet at that time.
Yeah.
He was 10 months old. He wasn't rolling
slow.
Over. He just was really behind. And then within 3 months, he was rolling, crawling, walking, talking. Like, it just, I think, really took the pressure off his body and the stress off his body, and gave him
He could focus and give attention to other things.
Yeah. And so really, the G tube for us and for Jensen really felt like a miracle. It changed his life, and it changed our life.
Yeah. It's been a lot better, and now he's hanging upside down on everything.
Now he's
doing
just
little
crazy
flips on the bars.
I know.
He's a tough little kid.
Yeah. So
He's
we're
got a ways
thankful
to go.
for it. I mean, we still wish he didn't have it at all, but
I can't wait for the day until it's gone. But in the meantime, we're thankful that
yes.
it's helping.
Yep. it's made a difference in his life and in our life, and we're thankful for it. So
One of the questions that we have gotten, right, as far as the vlog's concerned, people have asked, aren't you worried about it? Have you talked about that? About it getting dirty or getting stuff inside of it, like on the beach the other day, for example, sand in the water. And the doctors tell us just treat it as if he didn't even have it, you know, as far as infections or things getting inside of it, we keep it closed.
We wouldn't let him play in like dirty sewer water,
No.
but that really has nothing to do with the G-tube. That's mostly just because we wouldn't let any of our kids do that anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, the beach is fine, pools are fine, anything is really fine for him to be around. And, you know, it doesn't stop him from doing any activities.
He can be himself.
Yep.
He can be a little boy.
Yep. So we're thankful for it. Anyways, that was just, we really wanted to take today's video and kind of pay tribute to the G-tube, or maybe just our G-tube journey, because it has been an interesting 18 months with it. He's had a feeding tube, you know, almost his whole life. You know, it was a process for us, and I know that there might be other families out there struggling to decide if it's the right thing for them. And honestly, only your family can decide what is right for you. But every single person that had a child with a G-tube said G-tube is so much better than NG, and we will second that times 1,000. Yep. So
so much better.
If you're supplementing with an NG and you've been considering a G-tube, it's definitely worth it.
In retrospect, we would have done it sooner.
For sure.
Had we known he was going to still need it this long, we would have done it from the beginning, really.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
We're blessed.
So,
he's blessed.
Yep,
he's doing well. He's growing. He's just a happy, energized little buddy.
Yeah.
So fun.
Yeah. Anyways, we appreciate you guys. We appreciate your love and concern for Jensen. You know, his journey is probably what brought a lot of you guys to our channel. And, you know, we realize that he is a special little boy with a message to share. And, you know, we're thankful that you're here, and we're thankful that he is here.
He is here.
Yes.
Amen to that.
All right. Thanks, guys. We will see you back here tomorrow. Bye.
Good night.